same, or you can be the change. Far straight from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to
What's it like being a hottie in the vegan community?
you be the change that you wanna see in the world.
Bitcoin will not work as digital gold.
Engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic.
Everyone deserves the same chance, the same treatment, the same respect.
Boom shakalaka, we are live, we are recording, and I'm just going to start my intro to get this magic up in the air. Alrighty, I got a professional outfit over here. I got myself a intro. Yeah.
You won't work it, don't break the rest, you won't make it. I don't even care where this road leads. All I know is
Boom shakalaka, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters around the world. It is your boy Krishool, aka the chocolate Nubian soul brother from Ghana, West Africa. I love to drop the wisdomatic truth bombs, and we have got a treat. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time live, I'm speaking to my cousin, Angel. She's got a channel, at least she used to have a channel called Tutu Talks, where she speaks about a lot of controversial things dealing with society, race, spirituality, all that jazz. We talk about a lot of similar stuff, and we've been communicating for a few months now, and it's amazing. We have all of these things in common, and I was like, bro, you should come on my podcast, sis. That would be dope. So here we are for the first time. I don't think I've ever even seen you. This is the closest we've gotten to any real life conversation. And it's magical. I love it. So, Angel, tell us about yourself. What is it that you do? Who is Tutu Talks, or Angel rather? What do you go by? Give us a little intro into your world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Krishna, for having me here. It's such a blessing, such an honor to be a part of this journey with you, the Krishool Journey, the Krishool experience.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine.
Yes, so blessed to be here. A little bit about myself. I am 22 years old, an Aquarius, grew up in Sacramento, California, moved to Atlanta, Georgia just last year. And I've just been on a faith walk, getting to know Christ and just getting to know who I am really, and finding a new path where I once was broken, had to rebuild, reconnect, and find the deeper meaning behind why I was created. So that is where I'm at today. Absolutely.
That's pretty much, I think, not just my journey and your journey, but I feel like that's life's journey, trying to discover who we are, trying to not only do that, but to uplift people. But I guess the more that we learn about ourselves, or the more we learn about others, the more we learn about ourselves, and vice versa. And having spoken to you for a few months now, and just based on your introduction, obviously your faith is a big part of your life and what you do. And I was wondering, because you've been brought up from this Christian worldview, you're Christian, does that pave the way to your identity? Because I know a lot of Africans, obviously a lot of Africans, at least from where we come from, they're Christian, but I feel like that worldview sometimes paves the way for their identity, as it would, right? But for others, their identity is linked more to their race, their community. Not that these things are mutually exclusive, but I was wondering, because of the fact that your worldview is so influenced by your Christian faith, how does that affect your understanding of who you are differently? Like, does your race still come first to you? Like, do you identify yourself first and foremost as a Christian or as a Black woman? Because I feel like sometimes the racial side of things kind of takes precedent with certain people within the Black community. And I have this idea that people that are more kind of like focused on the Christian side of things, they tend to let that take the front in terms of who they are and what their purpose is. But what's your perspective on that?
Absolutely. That is such a great question. When I first discovered my true identity, I realized that it didn't necessarily lie in my looks, right? How my hair was, my body shape, to what I wore. it really lied in who I was as a person, right? As a human being, as we once discussed before, right? What's on the inside of me, my character. I realized that what society tells me every day, from the color of my skin to how I talk to how I walk to how I move, and just in my mannerisms and everything, I was just put into this box to just assimilate and fit into this cultural perspective that just wasn't me. Growing up, I've never fit in, ever. I always tried to hang around with specific people, whether they were white, Asian, Mexican, Hispanic. I always tried to talk a certain way, expecting people to accept me for who I was, but I never got that acceptance. But when I got to a point and I realized, why don't I just stop focusing on what people want from me, what they expect from me, how to prove myself to people, what they want me to be like them, right? So I realized, let me recalculate, let me take a step back. Let me go back to my past, right? Think about those moments where I was rejected, right? Pushed aside, not valued. And see, okay, so the reason why they didn't like me was because, oh, maybe my breath was stinking, okay. Maybe my hair was too short. Maybe my legs was ashy. No, that's not it. It was my character. They didn't like how confident I was, how extroverted I was, how outspoken I was. They were afraid of that because they wanted to do that. For me, I've always just been chill little angel, right? Going to school, going to church, doing my own thing, right? But I never knew how to assimilate. Now, when Christ found me in the deepest pit, the darkest place I've ever been, when he found me, nearly buried alive, I knew that my identity wasn't in what the world was telling me. My identity was in the one who created me. That's where my identity lied. When I found that deep within, I could tap into that moment of where he created me.
Sure. So you say when Christ found you, I got the impression that you were pretty much brought into the Christian faith, or is that something that you discovered later on in your life? Is that something that's always been with you, or did you have a profound experience where you became more devoted towards the Christian faith?
I am so sorry. There is someone at the door. If I could just get it
That's
in
all
one
right. That's all
second,
right.
please.
That's all good.
Give
We
me
can.
one
There's always
second.
the magic of editing.
Thank you so much.
It's cool. So we are speaking to Angel Tutu, my cousin. It's first time having a live conference with her. And I wanted to delve into what it's like growing up in the United States, also as a Ghanaian, because there is this understanding that African Americans, they're all the same in terms of the culture. At least I feel that a lot of people look at them as being the same. But from the conversations that I've had in private with her, she has dealt with the same identity issues that I think we all deal with, being this person that is essentially from Ghana, well, at least her parents are from Ghana, and to some extent has not been identified in the African American sense, that a lot of the African Americans kind of being brought up having their ancestors from the States would be identified as. And she's had her own identity issues, but I thought it would be a good opportunity for her to delve into that and also speak about just some of the struggles of the Black woman in the States. So we're going to get deep into that. Woo!
All
All
right,
righty.
we're back.
There's that beautiful face. We're back. All right.
So sorry about that.
All right. So we were speaking about your identity, Christianity, what it's like growing up in the States as a Black woman. And I feel like a running theme here is what it means to you to be a Christian and how that defines your worldview and how you see yourself. And I think I was asking you just earlier, just in regards to the Christian faith, is that something that you were brought into, or is that something that you got into later in life? Did you have some kind of a crisis? What was your journey into the Christian faith?
Absolutely. Yeah, just to, I guess, further elaborate on my Christian walk. I actually grew up in the Catholic Church. That seems to be the theme of a lot of Ghanaians, at least people who grow up in Ghana. I've seen to hear that they grew up in the Catholic Church. But I grew up in the Catholic Church in California since I was a little girl to about age 16. When I got to high school, I told my mom, I'm not feeling it no more. I want to leave. There was just so much pressure, and just, I didn't feel like it was purposeful. It felt meaningless. I felt like, why am I here? Right? I'm waking up every Sunday, going to church, right? We get the coffee and donuts, it's cool. We hear the scripture, we go home. But what is this really for? And my dad, I never really saw him going. I was always just my mom. So I figured, well, okay, dad's at home. Why can't I stay at home? And it got to a point where I just kept drawing away from that foundation that my mom laid. I guess I'll kind of leave it at there.
Yeah, I didn't actually know. I guess in my worldview, I see so many of the denominations as still having this Christian theme. So I know Catholicism is obviously very different to Christianity. I didn't know that my auntie, your mom, was actually Catholic. And that's the distinction there. So you were brought up as a Catholic, and then you found your own way. So I'm guessing throughout the influence of your mom or your dad, you essentially discovered Christianity. So how did that come about?
Yes. So when I was back in junior college, I went to junior college for 2 years before I transferred to my university to do the remaining 4 years. Now, when I was in community college, fresh out of high school, right? Still finding my way, that's where the huge identity battle really took place. I was just doing so many things that were just not like me, getting involved in wrong relationships, wrong friendships, right? Drugs, alcohol, just a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not proud of. But I remember my second year, I was moving into my dorms. One of my classmates, he helped me move in. Very nice man. The day before school was a Monday, right? So the Sunday afternoon before we went to campus that Monday, I said, hey, let's just go to church. Why not? And he said, yeah, I'm down. You want to go? So let's go. So we went to the Christian church in the downtown area of Sacramento, which was 30 minutes away from our campus. And we went, and I hadn't been to church in like 3 years. Because I just walked away. I said, you know what? And I'm not gonna lie, I experienced church hurt. Being
You experienced
in a community
what?
for church hurt.
Church hurt.
Yes.
So that's a thing. That's a thing. Okay.
That is a thing.
So
Unfortunately, it is.
what exactly is church hurt?
So the way I would define it, church hurt can be different for a lot of people. A lot of people experience different kinds of pain that it kind of stems from a group of people or an environment that you put your whole heart into, right? Of course, when you for example, when you get into a relationship, right, you work hard, you text them, you communicate with them, you buy them flowers, right? You're building to whatever comes next. When I was in church, I was building to, that appreciation or that type of acknowledgement that they would give me. One thing that they granted students when they graduated high school was a scholarship. Now, being the only Black family in our church, I figured, I don't know why they don't want to just help me, So finances were very, very difficult growing up. And I knew that I really needed this scholarship to go to college. And I wrote the essay. My grades weren't as good, but I was dedicated. I mean, talk about Christmas caroling 8 years in a row, every day. I didn't play soccer. I wasn't in no sports. I wasn't in school. Literally, as soon as I got out of school, mom was like, okay, get ready, go to church. We're putting on our black skirt, our red shirt, and we're going, right? So as soon as school gets off, all I knew was church, church, church. So when I didn't receive that scholarship, I was so broken. I said, I really need this money. How am I supposed to pay for my books and my school fees and all this? And when they didn't give me that scholarship, I said, you know what? I can't imagine dedicating my entire life again to something else like that. You know, we don't expect things to happen. I mean, that's just something that, you know, when you work hard for something, you expect a reward, right? So my dedication, going, sacrificing my time, right? I expected that. And when I didn't receive it, I literally cut ties with.
Sure. So just to clarify,
there.
it was the scholarship that you didn't receive from the church. So they were supposed to, you were expecting that they were going to reward you with a scholarship, and because you didn't receive that, that essentially gave you church hurt, the letdown.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
You know, it's interesting because my whole attitude in regards to religion, a whole bunch of other spirituality, you know, call it what you will, you know, organizations, is typically at some point when people are going through crisis, that's when they discover religion or spirituality, call it what you will. And in terms of being let down, I mean, the experiences that I have kind of seen around me are when, at least I can speak from my own experience actually, or when things that are being told to me don't always line up with reality, like you know, what's going on, like the kind of answers that I would receive, you know, going to Sunday school, you know, in regards to, you know, like, you know, where did Adam and Eve come from, and that kind of thing, you know, and how what, you know, two people creating the entire like human race, that kind of thing. And my church hurt was along the lines of receiving answers that were not consistent with what I could observe around me. But I guess anytime you experience a letdown, whether it's a letdown of information in terms of the truth, you feel as if you're not hearing the truth, or a letdown in terms of support, that's obviously hurtful. And I guess with your experience, the fact that you started your path towards this church with the expectation that they were going to support you, that's obviously what really led to your hurt, right? But I guess more in the religious sense, like in terms of the worldview that you had, did you feel? I mean, you obviously left Catholicism because something didn't. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, but something didn't feel right in terms of your what was going on there. How did the Christian faith fill that emptiness in any way?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, so sorry. Absolutely. You know, like I had mentioned, when I went to that church service that day with one of my classmates before the day before school started, I experienced a form of peace, you know, like a resettlement. Like I had been gone for so long, and I said, you know, I want to make this a habit again, because it's almost like, you know, growing up, right? We are forced to go to church. Our parents grab us by the leg to go, you're going to church. I'm ironing your cargo pants and your white shirt, and we're going. You know what I mean? So for years, you're just following along, trying to obey, right? Do the right thing. But you don't know why you're going. You're just going because they say so. And I knew that I loved to be involved in church. I love to sing, right? I love to just be around people, but I never really knew why I was doing it, you know. But like I had mentioned, going to that service really impacted me. But it wasn't until the third time I had gone where something really changed in my spirit, in my heart, and I said, nah, I gotta find out who this Jesus guy is, because it's not even about the scholarship anymore. The life I'm living, I don't think I'm going down the right path, you know?
Sure.
So
was was there a specific thing that you can nail in regards to Christianity that really kind of made you click in terms of, because you speak about like the experience that you had in terms of like what you felt like? I guess there was more of an intuitive experience, but was there any defining quality about the Christian church that you were going to that really, or did you have this yearning just to discover who Jesus was?
Yeah, so what happened, Krishna, was, during quarantine, right? It was about it lasted for a long time, like around like 2 years or so. I had taken time to just kind of like escape in a sense. Of course, my family had moved across the country, and I was left behind because I had to finish school. But of course, I did it for the right reasons, not knowing what was to come. So during quarantine, I did a lot of online church services. One of the churches that I joined was called Bayside Church. And it was that same church, but a different branch, because they have branches all over. Now, when I would go on the online service, of course, it would be a beautiful experience, right? I would just go, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, right? I'm logging onto the Zoom, the live stream. I'm getting up early. I'm thanking God for today. I gotta be doing something right, And every time every Sunday, I would make the effort to just join the live stream. I saw a sudden growth that I wasn't attracted to the same things that I was. My friend group was changing. I was happier. I wasn't depressed. I felt different, I felt more in tune with who I was, because a lot of the reasons why I was so down and out was because of the people I was surrounded with, the people that were in my circle. So go ahead.
No, it's interesting to get your understanding on that. I guess in my mind, like I was expecting there was going to be some spiritual, philosophical idea within Catholicism that kind of made you switch. But I get the impression from you it was more around community, the fact that the people that you were connected to and just how that affected your life in terms of the change, like what happened when you started going to this Christian church. That's what essentially shifted you towards the Christian path. Because I guess from my mind, this is a layman, I don't have a detailed understanding of Catholicism, or at least the distinctions. Yeah, I don't see there being that great a difference to the point where someone would like have a massive leaning towards one over or another. Of course, everyone has a different experience and so forth. So to hear that you shifted towards Christianity, I was just surprised to understand why. And it's interesting how so much of religion, I think, is around community. I think that's essentially what people are missing in life. And whereas in this day and age, some people have replaced religion, spirituality with different communities. And we find a lot of people now kind of developing their communities online as through, social networks and so forth, but it's not the same thing. And I think this is probably one of the problems, right? The fact that even though we are more connected than we've ever been in terms of through the internet, through social media, there's such a disconnection. And I think one of the pivotal roles churches played in people's development is creating a strong network of community. The fact that people go to Sunday school each Sunday and they develop these strong friendships, and it's such a communal thing. It's not just a case. I mean, you mentioned you were going to church initially through some kind of online thing, but I'd imagine not long after that you started going to the actual church. Am I mistaken?
No, not at all. It wasn't until I moved, though. It wasn't until I moved out here.
So
where my family is.
Just to clarify, so you were essentially staying in, did you say San Francisco, and then you moved to
Sacramento?
Sacramento, yeah.
Yes.
And then you moved back to where your folks were?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, I was online for a long time, everything was closed down, literally even the bathrooms at Walmart, but when I moved out here to Georgia, that's when I went in person. But that wasn't until August of 2021,
Sure.
which
So
is
this
where
is
I
all very
actually had to.
recent. I mean, you went through this
Mhm.
entire
It
metamorphosis
is.
just over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Yeah, it seems
a
to be such
butterfly.
a it's such a common theme, people having these profound experiences over the last couple of years, understandably, because there's been this massive issue that we've been dealing with, the pandemic and so forth, and then just all the political things that have transpired, not necessarily related to that, but also we had the George Floyd situation, which I
Yes,
know that affected you as well. In fact, you mentioned earlier to
absolutely.
me that you were I'm not sure if I can say this openly, but do you want to talk about the George Floyd thing? Because you had your own, at
Yes.
least I got the impression that this was a bit of an identity crisis for you. Because on
Hmm.
one hand, your folks are telling you one thing about your involvement
Yes.
in this protest, and you feel as if this is
Hmm.
something that is important to you because you obviously identify
Yes,
as you're part of the Black community, but you
absolutely.
have Ghanaian roots. And for people that
Hmm.
don't understand, in the same way that people from essentially put, people from Ghana or people that have Ghanaian ancestry that go to the United States don't have the same kind of ancestry as well. Obviously, you can tie it back essentially to the diaspora Ghana, but obviously their ancestors and more recently were brought up in the States. So there are people that kind of look at that differently. But I want to hear more about your perspective towards this, because we delved into this a little, like how did the George Floyd scenario kind of hit you in terms of how people perceived you, and what did that mean to you, that whole thing?
Absolutely. When I first, you know, was aware of the incident when that happened, it broke me, like most of us. Seeing that policeman, I mean, you don't even deserve to have your badge on, right? And as old as this is, this still hits close to home. I mean, people talk about this day after day after day. That was someone's father that someone lost, right? He was a member of that community. So when I found out about this, of course, I was previously involved on my campus, my college campus, being the president of the Black Student Union. And when COVID hit, we had to completely just change all of our meetings, our resources, and just find ways to still stay in community at home. But during this time, that's where there's a need to draw closer to one another, right? To really be able to consult with people. And that could have been anyone's dad, right? So I took it upon myself to just have honest conversations. And like you mentioned, right? Because my parents are from Ghana, moving here, there has always been this disconnect between the Black community and Africans. I mean, it's just been there from the get go. I mean, they come here, you know, idolizing these stereotypes that have been so secretly intertwined into our brains. We come here thinking that, all Black people are drug dealers, right? They're ghetto, they're bad people, but it's not the truth. It's what they want you to think.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I had mentioned to my dad, till this day, I never told him that I went to that protest. I never told him I saved my behind. I'm not getting no beatings tonight. No, sir. But
Hope he doesn't end up
I
watching this video. It's like,
oh, he won't.
Angel, what are you doing? You went to that
My life
protest.
would be over. My life would be over. Oh, please don't
I've
tell him.
experienced similar things,
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but it's so interesting to hear you speak about the distinction between the Black community and the African community, because a lot of people don't realize this. They kind of see Africans and African Americans as like, oh, you're all Black. Don't realize that this is a cultural thing. People always make
Yes.
this about, because racially speaking, African Americans are generally speaking from the same part. They're essentially from Ghana, Nigeria, essentially from Ghana, the west of Africa. This is essentially where they
Mhm.
were transported and so forth to the Americas, the Caribbeans, and so forth. But culturally, because they've gone through very different experiences, there is a disconnect there in terms of how they view the world and so forth. And it's interesting that when you mentioned to me that your dad was telling you that, you shouldn't go to this protest because you were not one of them, I was like, wow, it's interesting because, that's that's something that whereas it hits home to me, I've always felt a little different in the sense that I'm someone from Ghana. I was born there, and I was trying to identify with the African American culture when I came here, because that's the perspective people had of Black. But it's interesting that a lot of people don't realize that there is this distinction. So has that played on your mind, like growing up as a kid? Did you feel as if you weren't quite, you didn't know which group to fit into because, I mean, you didn't fully, I mean, how did you see yourself, rather than me putting words in your mouth?
Yeah, great question. Right on track. Just like we were talking about identity earlier, right? I never had the ability to assimilate or fit in any circle. Growing up, I was called names, whitewashed, Oreo, you know what I mean? Black on the outside, white in the middle, and I couldn't help it. I mean, but what I came to realize that no matter how I talk or how I act, I'm gonna be me at the end of the day. I'm just Angel. That's it. I'm not, I'm not just Black or Ghanaian, a Black woman, Christian. I'm simply me. That's it.
Absolutely.
So
And
yeah.
that's a profound point. I think it's so important for people to realize that. I feel like one of the problems in the in the world in general is people are so inclined to identify themselves based off of these physical characteristics, and
Yes.
when you move towards a more a spiritual mentality, you realize that fundamentally we're still all the same creatures under the heavenly skies, and God's creation, so to speak. And with that sense of understanding, you become more connected rather than saying, oh, you're Black, you're white, you're woman, man, etc. Therefore, I can't resonate with you. Ultimately, we all have this, this desire to be loved and to love and so forth. And
that's
the most important quality, But Angel, Zoom is actually cutting down our conversation to around 40 minutes. So I wanted to keep this one short, but I would love to have you on again. In fact, I might find another platform to do this on so we can have a more detailed conversation. But I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to connect and kind of just speak face to face, which is amazing. Finally, nice to see your face in real time for a change.
Yes.
And just talk about some issues, because I know you had a channel. I'm not sure if this is going to reignite again. You do love to talk about politics, society. Obviously, you're also the head of the Black organization or something like that in the States. So
yes.
Just quickly, do you want to share with us your contacts if people want to get a hold of you, and perhaps just a bit about your history involved in the channel and other movements and so forth?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, again, my full name is Angel Benson Tutu. At the moment, there isn't any way to contact me, but in the near future, you will be seeing my face soon. So if you want more information, get it from Mr. Krishool himself, and he will keep you updated in the description box below. If you ever want to visit this video back again, you will find me. Just wait.
Fantastic. Angel, thank you so much for coming on and dropping some knowledge and giving us an insight into your experience as a Black woman, also as a God-fearing Christian and so forth. And I look forward to hopefully doing this again soon, or perhaps once, if you start a channel, you can have me on and we can talk about all the things that are going on in the world. Angel, you are a scholar. You are a powerful spiritual woman, and it's been a pleasure having you on the Krishool Journey podcast. Peace.
Thank you for having me.
You won't work it, don't break the rest, you won't make it. I don't need